Problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now the time is already 9:05. So we have already started recording the entire session, so probably we can start right now.
Okay, sure.
So I would like to invite Hamiza to start the MC of today's session to start our session. Hamiza, silakan.
Okey, Yang Berusaha Dr. Yong Sung Kong, Ketua Unit Etika dan Penerbitan. Yang berbahagia Profesor Teknologis Dr. Lam Su Siong, Lam Shu Lam Su
Betul.
sorry, Timbalan Pengarah Pusat Antarabangsa Pejabat Timbalan Naib Chancellor Universiti Malaysia Terengganu dan hadirin sekalian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam UiTM di hatiku. Alhamdulillah pada pagi yang mulia ini dapat kita bersama-sama berhimpun bagi menjayakan seminar perkongsian penyelidik muda 2021. Untuk makluman para hadirin, penyelidik ini dianjurkan sebagai satu inisiatif untuk menggalakkan penerbitan dalam jurnal berimpak tinggi serta mengekang isu penerbitan dalam jurnal pemangsa. Baiklah hadirin yang dihormati, bagi memohon keberkatan dan kelancaran majlis kita pada pagi ini, marilah kita bersama-sama memulakan majlis dengan bacaan Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Semoga majlis kita pada hari ini berjalan dengan lancar dan mendapat keberkatan darinya. Baiklah, untuk sesi seterusnya, saya akan serahkan majlis kepada Dr. Yong Suk selaku moderator seminar kita pada hari ini. Dipersilakan.
Terima kasih Miza. Okay, izinkan saya mulakan sesi ini dalam bahasa Inggeris ya. So very good morning to Professor Lam for agreeing and thank you very much for agreeing to join the inaugural session. Very good morning to Professor Dato Dr. Datin and all the participants who joined this session today. Before I pass the session to Professor Lam, allow me to introduce to you a little bit about Professor Lam. So as Ms. Miza have mentioned just now, he is a professor in UMT, majoring in the field of chemical and environmental engineering. So he is actually a very prolific writer with a H index of 42, and I believe that number has increased right now. It's no longer 42, it's higher than that. And then the cumulative citation of 5,200 in Google Scholar. Professor Lam have already published a lot of high impact journals that includes those from Lancet, Nature, and so on. Now, for me to read all his credentials, we're going to take some time. So let's just put it this way. Professor Lam is very young, still very young, and he has already achieved so much in terms of high impact journal publication. And for your information, he already got his professorship within 8 years of his PhD completion. A remarkable achievement for a young person like Professor Lam. So without further ado, I would like to pass the podium to Professor Lam for him to start his talk. So the floor is yours, Prof.
Thank you, Dr. Yong. First of all, hello to everyone. Please allow me to present, to share my experience with you in English today, if that's okay. Yeah, of course, if you have any questions, you can just feel free to type in the text box, or you can also ask me. I will try to apply the best I can. First of all, thank you very much to Dr. Yong and also UiTM for inviting me. And I can see there are some friends of my, some UiTM friends as the participants today. I think Husna is here as well. So hello to everyone. And so I hope my sharing today will be useful to you all. So don't treat me as a professor today. I think what I would like to share today is just a fellow Malaysian who's trying to pursue his passion in research and academia, and just trying his best to do whatever he can. I mean, even nowadays in the COVID situation. So without further ado, can I just check whether you can see my slides? Dr. Yong, if you can you see my slides? Yeah, is it
Yes,
clear?
yes, I can see that.
My voice is okay?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dr. Yong. So basically today, I think I'm going to share is not just only about publications. I mean, it's also like actually my journey until from being a student until being a lecturer and then until now. Okay, so I hope some of the tips and experience from me will be useful for you, and hopefully they can really give you motivations and drive for continuing to be excel in academias. Okay, so next slide. So let me see. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to share. Is first is my learning journey. Okay, and then what keeps me from keep going and continuing my momentum, and also some of my strategies, my practice in publications and in research, and also some of my writing habits that could be useful for you. And also some of the, of course, because we are talking about publication today, so some of the personal tips from not just me, it's actually from my research team members. So I have no secret, so I will try my best to share my experience with you, right? So, yes, I'm the same with you guys. I mean, I started to go into the university to study my undergraduate degree. So I actually study in back in the time it was called KUSTEM, College University Science and Technology Malaysia, and it is now, I mean, being established, and I mean, established as a new university is called UMT now. Okay, so I did my undergraduates, and after that, after my undergraduate, during my final year, I got interested in doing research, so I continued to further my studies in UMT actually to do my master's, because at that time I don't know anything. So I just know that research seems very interesting. And yeah, perhaps UMT can be a good place for me to continue my study. So I went to talk to some of my mentors, my professors, I mean, who guided me for my final year studies, final year projects, and then they advised me to further my studies. So I just further without thinking of anything. So I continue. And then yes, I have to say that I really study the best I can and do the best I can during my master studies. And that actually, we have made some good outputs or achievements during my master studies, and that in a way helps me to then get my scholarships. I got I think I'm so lucky to get the Yang di Pertuan Agong scholarships, beasiswa Yang di Pertuan Agong, and that actually allows me to continue my dream of furthering my studies in overseas. So I went to Cambridge University to continue PhDs, to further my study in PhD. But when I arrived in Cambridge, I just knew that, I at that time, I need to get another master degree before I can continue my degree, my PhD degrees. So that was told by my supervisor at that time. So at that time, I was actually in shock because I came here to do PhD. I didn't know that I need to do another degree. So it was really tough, but I mean I went through, and then as a result, you can see that I have another what we call certificate of postgraduate studies. It's actually like a 1 year master studies, and then after that, then I'm qualified to continue by with my PhD studies. So having said that, although it's tough, but it's actually has given me a very good experience, bits and pieces, and that actually helps me a lot in what I'm doing nowadays, whether it's lecturing or in research and developments. Okay, yeah. So after I did my PhDs, and even during the time when I was doing my PhDs, doing my masters, I was already started doing something called being a reviewer. So that's what I would like to share with you. Like for those of you, I suppose we have a lot of students here and even lecturers. So one thing that I find that is good is being a reviewer. So try to accept the invitations to be a reviewer to review papers. So that actually provides me a lot of knowledge and also give me a lot of tips in knowing all the different journals in your field, in my field actually. So by having a chance to review the paper for these journals, this allows me to get, to really understand what the journal really wants. So I've been reviewing a lot. Even nowadays, I'm still reviewing papers for journals. I consider it as a volunteering service. At the same time, I'd also get knowledge and also get knowledge from reviewing those papers and get up to date with what is going on in my field, and also to get to know the journal better, because you know that your journal, it will change in terms of their research. In terms of their aims and scope. They may update the aims and scopes of the journals from time to time. So being a reviewer, being a reviewer for that journal, that allows you to know about all this information, and this is very helpful in publishing papers in these journals that you review for. So I continue to review journals. So I would urge you all to be a reviewer for journals. That's good. So I've been reviewing for papers for many different journals. As long as it is somehow related to my field of studies or my field of expertise. And going back to students just now, you may not know how to be a reviewer or how to review papers, but it is okay. You have your supervisors. And so when you receive an invitation to review papers, you can always, ask your supervisors, Prof, Doctor, I got this invitation and I would like to learn how to review paper. Do you mind to guide me? And I'm sure your supervisors would love to guide you further, because they also know that reviewing papers actually is really helpful for you to learn a lot of things. So you can learn from your supervisor in reviewing the papers. Right. And yes, after being a reviewer, reviewing many papers for different journals, so the editors of the journal, okay, in a journal where you submit your paper to, it's actually the journal, the papers that you submit to that journal, they are handled by a group of editors. We call it editorial board. So after I have been reviewers for many journals, and I have been reviewing for them for years, so somehow the editors, the editor-in-chief of this and that journal, they get to know you, because they know that, oh, Lam always review paper for my journal. So it seems that he knows a lot about my journal, this journal. And yeah, I think maybe I can also appoint him as a member of the editorial board to handle papers, to also contribute to this journal. So I got invited and I got appointed to be, whether it's an editor, associate editors, editorial board members, or guest editors of this and that journals. So this again give me an opportunity to know a bit more, to know in more details about what a journal, this and that journal really wants. That is really helpful. Okay. And speaking of this editorial experience, for some lecturers, if you do not, if you like to know how to really become an editor, the first thing that you can do is, of course, being a reviewer, let the editors know about you. And secondly, you can work together with a few lecturers from different university perhaps, and then try to propose to the journal, to the editors-in-chief, to guest edit the special issues. Okay, that's one of the route that you can take. So when the editor-in-chief, let's say, receive your email, interested to become to guest edit, to propose the special issues, they will look at your profile and they can see whether you have been reviewing papers for this journal. Then that will add points as well. But what I'm trying to say is, you can start by being a guest editor for a journal, and then slowly you can build yourself up to become editorial board members, associate editors, and also editor-in-chief. So this is very useful for your career, especially in publications, especially in knowing what the journal really wants, and also, more importantly, not just knowing about the journal, but also know how a journal assess or evaluate, or how an editor assess and evaluate a paper, whether it is up to the level, whether it fulfill what the journal really wants. So that actually allows you to really, improve your chances in publications in these journals. Okay, right. So another thing is I'm lucky that over the years I have been trying to build a research team and then expanding my research teams. So what I'm trying to say is for lecturers, it's good for lecturers or students, it's good to involve in a research team if you can, if your supervisor has a research team. So in the research team, you have your supervisors and you have postdocs, PhDs and masters, and that allows you to work in a team, because by working alone you will have you will have less opportunities, and of course your output will be slow, and of course not as many as you work in a team. So I'm lucky to have a team, or actually what I'm trying to say, my students are very lucky to have a team to support each others. So let's say with respect to publications, they will help each others in reading, proofreadings, and also editing and improving their papers each others. So by this, let's say each of the students, they will have one papers drafted from their research or one review papers drafted from their work. They can share the authorship with their research team members because they actually work on the papers together. So let's say, imagine I have 6 master students. Each of one, they have one papers drafting. So together they will have 6 papers. So that in a way significantly improve your publication in this case. Okay, and let's say I'm sure you will have questions like, oh, I only work with my supervisors, and my supervisor doesn't have really a lot of members in the research team. That's okay. You can ask your supervisors and see whether they have collaborators who has the research teams, or you can propose to your supervisors as a student to work with another research team in UITM perhaps. It doesn't stop you from really going after what you really want. I mean, you are all you are trying to do is to improve your skills and also your opportunities to, let's say, publication in this case. So having a research teams and with members, that's good in my experience. Right. And one thing I would like to particularly highlight is I'm so proud that among the students that I have supervised and graduated, I do have some very good students. Let's say Dr. We call it RK Liu. We call him RK. It's Rocky actually. So he's one of the best students that I ever have. Okay. So even after he's graduated, so he has made so many achievements. Like he doesn't want to continue his career in academia. Instead, he chose to set up his own company called NV Western PLT. Okay, and then he's more like a business type of guy. So after his PhD, he set up his own company, but he also make good use of what he actually learns from his PhDs. So he see the way that how I have built myself. He actually follows me. So as you can see, after my students graduated, even before he graduated, he has been reviewing for journals. All these, you see, all these high impact journals. He has been a reviewer even until now. And after that, he listened to me and he continued to review papers. Then similarly, he also got the opportunity and invitations from the editors in chief to be appointed as an associated for this journal. You see, some even have a high impact. Some are high impact journals. So this, in a way, proved that it actually works. Okay. So, and at the same time, he is also editorial board members of these journals. So some of you may wonder saying that, oh, Lam, Prof. Lam, you are professors, of course you get these opportunities. But what I'm trying to show from this slide is my student, he's only just, now he's considered only having a PhD. He graduated, I think, 2 years ago, 2019. So he's already an editorial board member, associate editors. Okay, so this actually shows that everything is possible if you really put efforts and knowing the right way and the strategies to do this. Okay, right, and yeah, as you can see, Rocky did even better than me. So look at this column, verified reviews. he has reviewed 1,480 papers. So that's he did even better than me. So he's even more active than me in reviewing papers. So this is what I'm trying to show that that's why I foresee that he will have greater achievement, which I hope for my students. So I really congratulate him. And he has, you see, he has got all these top peer reviewer, excellent reviewers, which I don't have it. But I'm so happy that my students got it, and he also published a lot, and he is now still a research associate in my team. So he's still helping my research teams to in research and development and also publications. Okay, right. So this is just to show the example of Rocky. Like now, these are the journals that he has been invited to review, like Journal of Cleaner Productions. It's now it has an impact factor of 9 point something. So he has reviewed about 400 papers. So that shows like, I mean, his supervisor is doing this and he is following and he learns a lot from that. And he also benefits. So yeah, he has been reviewing for all these 31 Q1 journals and reviewing for 733 journals. Okay. And not just, he doesn't stop from there. As I said, he set up and opened a companies. So and now he's offering training and consultancy because he has been a student. He knows what are the difficulties, struggles that a postgraduate student is undergoing. So he also create like these kind of workshops and talks on like how to prevent rejection, top 5 strategy, and this. So he's offering these kind of workshops and training to mainly students and different universities. I mean, through his company. So this shows another route of success, route that students can consider taking, like top 5 strategies to prevent desk rejects. So he has accumulated his experience, Rocky, and then and now he's trying to share all this experience with students like you all and lecturers as well, like what I'm doing now. So that's good. So finish with my research team members. Now another thing that is useful is being a student, being a lecturers, professors. It is always important to have friends and collaborators. So I never stop looking for and collaborating with friends. Dr. Young is my collaborators. We have been working together. So that's why, I mean, I got this opportunity to share my experience with you all. So never stop looking for friends, and hopefully they will become your collaborators. So I have been collaborating, my team has been collaborating with researchers in Malaysia. We have all these universities that I'm collaborating with. We work together in joint research. So that allows us to also send our students to different universities to have more exposures. And apart from the fact that some of the research analysis that you cannot do in your universities, you can have these, performed in other universities. So many benefits and advantage that you can have from collaborating with different partners in Malaysia. So these are my collaborators, and not to mention that we also have joint papers that leads to joint publication in many journals. So this is how in a way that we can have more publications through this route. Okay. And yes, not just local universities, we also need to have partners in overseas. You'll be surprised that everybody is actually very keen, no matter whether he's from overseas or he's from locals or she's from local. Everybody is really keen on collaborations, but you need to really go out and volunteer yourself or really go and invite them to collaborate with you. So I started this even when I was a student. I will email, I will Facebook. At that time, it's called ICQ, and then at my time, I'm not sure whether you heard of this ICQ. And so I have been trying to make friends, as many friends as possible. And some of my friends and collaborators that I get to know during my master's, my PhD, and then later when I'm lecturers. So some of them become my collaborators. Okay. So having these collaborators again, it expands my network. and that actually provide me with more opportunities, which I will share with you again more later. So I have all these collaborators that we can work together in joint publication as well. Right. So this is my learning journey in writing and publication. As you can see, 2005 to 2011 is the time when I'm students. So at that time, I already know that being a student, being in academia, in master students or PhD students, it is good, not compulsory. I have to say, during my time, my supervisor never forced me to publish. What they have been telling me is publication is always a bonus. When you really have a good findings, you focus on doing the best in your research, doing your research, and then you get good data and good results. And then when you really want to share this result for the benefit of the communities, then you can write it out and send for publications. That's what they told me. So they never make it compulsory for me to publish, but they, in a way, they encourage me to publish. They would want me to think that it is not because you want to publish because of treating this as a KPI, like, oh, this is a requirement, but it is more like a passions or a sharing that you want to share with your communities. So that actually, really helps me at that time. Okay, so I have been publishing since even when I'm doing my master's and PhD studies, and then I got good guidance from my supervisors. So yeah, I published, and then 2012 is when I came back from my PhD. I came back to Malaysia. So yes, at that time I never stopped writing to send for publication, because I have been told that, like, publication, if you are doing research, your research is not considered complete if you didn't publish the results and share the findings. So I have been writing and publishing, and you see 2012 to 2016 is the time where I came back to Malaysia, and then I start to build up my research team, build up my research facilities, getting to know with the academia in Malaysia, but at the same time, I continue to publish. Okay, starting from 2016 to 2019, that is the time where I really already have some experience I have already a team, and I also know some strategies on how to really increase my publications, and I have enough friends and collaborators, and that is the time when I started to really have more outputs in terms of publication. And from 2019 to 2021 onwards, things just gone in a very fast way, I would say, because at this moment, there are a few factors. One is because of COVID-19, we have more time to stay at home. And when we stay at home, that in a way gives me more time to really work on publications. And then also for my research team members, my students, they also get more time because they have difficulties to go to the lab in the university to do research. So they have to divert or channel some of their time to really to work on writing and publication. So that is the time, and this is also the time where my friends and my collaborators, we are all affected by COVID-19. So we have more time to stay at home. So together we have been writing a lot at that time, because we don't know that there's not much thing that we can do but except writing. So we publish a lot, and I have also have grown my research network, my collaborators to having a lot of collaborators. So we publish a lot. Okay, so that's a good thing. So everybody is having a very good momentum, and that's why it is a good opportunity for me today to share with you, like, how this can really works, and hope that is useful for you and for others, and whether you are students or lecturers. So one thing I would like to share is just my personal experience. You can always consider journals in the area of environment. environment is very big. It's a very big areas. So in this case, you can aim for sending your papers to environment related journals. Okay. So I actually, I studied environmental technology in my bachelor studies, and then after that I continue my master's in environmental engineering. Even my PhD is actually about environmental engineering. So I know a bit more on all these environment journals. And now, but what I would like to share with you, right? For those of us in the back in our background, I think in a way you can try to link your research to environment, whether it's environmental science or environment technologies. So you see in environmental science journals, these are the journals that I have listed. So you can see there are some very good journals that you can try, and they accept papers in a wide range of area, a field of expertise or research interest. So I'm sure some of these journals would be suitable for you guys. Okay, so you can consider like environmental science and pollution. If you have some pollution related papers, studies, you can submit it to here. Environmental research is actually a very, accept a broad range of papers in different fields. So you can consider atmosphere, Stoughton, environmental pollutions. And those of you in chemistry, if you work a bit on the environment, you can send to environmental chemistry letters, and they have good impact factors. Okay, I have to say that having a high impact factors doesn't mean that it is very, very difficult to submit your papers to publish your papers in these journals. You'd be surprised that you see, like in my case, I'm a Malaysian, so at least I can prove to you that the research work performed in Malaysia are actually in a sufficient level and depth to be considered and published by these journals. Okay, so everything is possible as long as you know the way and also you have done your research right. Okay, right. Other than environmental science, you can also go into, for those of you if you are working on engineering, okay, engineering, if you can just lean to environment a little bit, you can go for these journals, environmental or chemical engineering. My PhD is in chemical engineering, so I also look at chemical engineering journals. So these are the journals that I have the opportunity to publish. So some of them are high impact, but some of them they also have good impact factors. I have to mention that when I submit my papers to this journal, they may not have that high impact factors. And I remember when I submit to Journal of Environmental Chemical Engineering, I think it started with no impact factors. But I just know that my papers may suit to may be suitable for the field of the scope of this journal, so I just submit at that time. Okay, but now of course over the years, because of many people reading these journals and citing these papers in these journals, so of course their impact factor raise up. But what I'm trying to say is there are actually a lot of journals in the field of environment that you can consider submitting your paper to. Okay, I also work a lot on energy and field. Okay, so I also submit my papers to these journals in the field of energy and field. You'll be surprised if you work something related to energy, there are a lot of good journals with good impact factors that you can consider. I remember when I submitted my first paper to Energies. Energies is open access journal where you have to pay for open access fee. But when I first submitted to this journal, the impact factor is just 0 point something. Okay, but I was invited to submit papers, so I just submit. So Energy also have good journals that you can consider submitting your paper. So by this I mean that if you work on research that is somehow linked to the hot topics nowadays like energy and environment, you have more chances and therefore higher chances and opportunities for you to publish in these in good impact journals. Okay, other than energy and environment journals, I also submit my papers to material science and or material engineering journals. Okay, I also work a little bit on material. So these are the journals that I have sent and published my paper before, like composite. I involved in research in developing a composite for environmental application. So other than sending to environment journal, I also send to composite journals, okay, or applied materials and interface. So for those of you who are working on physics or working on material, you can also consider submitting your papers to these material journals. And if your paper is really in a good data, it's really a good paper, you can send to JMCA, like Journal of Material Chemistry A. Okay, right. Having said that, I never stop inviting and encouraging my students. Because students, they need to learn this and grow their experience. So I also encourage them to submit to new journals. Yes, new journal, but preferably from an established or known publisher like Elsevier, Springers, the publisher that you know, not all those dodgy or maybe like pirated publishers that you understand. It needs to come from at least acceptable publishers. So, I also encourage my students, my collaborators to submit because they also have students like in their final year studies, in their master's level that would like to start trying. So they also send to all these new journals like Material Science for Energy Technologies, Environmental Advance, that you can consider submit your paper to. So please don't stop yourself from submitting to these journals, okay? So it gives you a good training. Their requirements may not be as tough or as high as to those journals with impact factors, but it gives you a good training. And by this I didn't mean that it is easy to just you submit paper and then it will accept you straight away. Sorry, you still need to go through the peer review process. But this gives you a good training as a student, as a starting, or even for lecturers who like to start. So some of these journals are already indexed in Scopus, like JSSM, Journal of Sustainability, Science and Management. I would urge you all to. This is from Malaysia, okay, and is indexed in my site as well. So you can consider submitting your papers. You see, these journals, it accepts management related papers, sustainability papers. So you can consider to submit to all these journals. Okay. Then after you have already accumulated your experience, you have a team, you have good collaborators, then you can plan then draft your papers. I mean, work on your experiments, then only draft your papers and submit to all these high impact journals. Okay, so I think being a researcher, in my experience, I always set it as a target, or it's actually my dream of having the opportunity or having to be able to publish papers in high impact journals, because I already I already pick my career as lecturers. Many years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So one of my target is always to be able to publish in high impact journals. I mean, just to set it as my own target. So yeah, I'm lucky that these are the journals that I have. My team has really worked so hard. My collaborators, we all have been really working so hard, and finally, yeah, we've been able to publish papers in these journals. Okay, right. So this is also to show you that, right, don't underestimate yourself. Like in my case, yeah, I do my research in Malaysia with the facilities that I have and with the team members that I have, who are all Malaysian in this case, but still we are capable of publishing in all these high impact journals. Okay, so we are actually quite good. Okay, right. Now let's go to my motivation. What drives me, or what keeps my momentum of continue to publish in this case? So these are the reasons. Okay, first, I consider publication, the process of publications to help me and also to help my team members who are postgraduates, postdocs, to really identify and improve their knowledge. When you want to publish a papers, when you want to write a papers, you need to read papers, right? You need to read a lot. So that the process of reading those papers and writing, it will really improve your knowledge, and not just your knowledge, but also your confidence. The more you read, the more you know, then the more confidence you are. So this is a very importance of building yourself as a competent researcher or a competent person by having confidence on, especially on the new or current new area of interest. So you need to read. And yes, after you have been reading all those papers, you get more information that actually some of that information will be quite useful for you to design your experiments for your new studies. You will know, let's say in my case, I'm studying, let's say this technique, pyrolysis. I will know what are the suitable temperature, what are the temperatures to study, and what is the process time that I need to study in order to, when I want to develop a new technique or something. So it will be useful for me and my students to design experiments. Okay, and then the third one is, yes, when you write and publish, it really significantly, this is one thing very important, is nowadays, it is important to know how to write. Again, not just writing, but also to interpret, to understand, to really write, to interpret and write out the significant findings, and also not just to interpret, and also to summarize what are the key points that you should present from your research or from your review, how to analyze what is the good or bad, and how to evaluate what is good, what is bad, what needs to be improved, and also to synthesize, to combine some key information, and don't just write everything in one place without any logical meaning. Okay, and having all these skills, it actually, practically, it also contributes to my students nowadays in writing their literature review chapters. I mean, if you are students, your postgraduate students, you need to write up your thesis, right? Your thesis or your dissertation. And one of the chapter will be literature review chapters. Okay, so this helps a lot in writing, especially in the literature review chapters. Okay, and also help my students, even me nowadays, to really how to critically review the literatures. Okay, and yes, it's something that you can do. At least you can have something as an output, especially now we are in a COVID-19 situations. So we can't, now I'm sure some of the labs or some of the universities are still closed, not allowing students to go to the lab to do experiments. So you have, since you cannot go to the labs, you have more time, then you can consider use up the time to write, to improve your writing, and then writing papers and for publications. So this allows you to use up to spend your time wisely. Okay, and the last thing is what me and also my research team members actually benefit by writing and publishing papers. This provide us with many of these opportunities. So when people know about you, they know you are an expert, or you do a lot of studies, or you are doing studies in this and that areas. So you will get opportunities like being invited to be a speakers, a plenary keynote speakers, and yes, I also been invited to be a visiting researcher, and let's say to one of the university in Hong Kong, and I get visiting fellowship. My student get the opportunity to be a visiting student, and if you get better, you get to be appointed as a visiting professors, and of course invited to write book chapters, joint publication, applying grants together. And also when you publish a lot, people can read your papers, a lot of people can get to know you and know your team members and also your research. So we actually get more opportunities to have more good quality final year students to do the final year projects relevant to the research that we are doing. And also we get good postgraduates, and of course, not to mention that my students are getting a lot of awards and also getting promotions, whether getting a new job. Like I have students being appointed as a postdoc, as a lecturer in other university, and I myself, I think in a way I'm also getting the advantage from here by being promoted from being a lecturer until a professor now. Right, so these are the opportunities of really writing for publications. Okay, my strategy. Okay, please allow me to take a sip of my water. Okay, approach yourself to help. It's good to always to volunteer yourself or offer yourself to help. Okay, what I mean by helping is, you as a student or as a lecturers, you need to let others know about your strength, what skill you have, what analytical skills that you have, what area of studies that you can contribute, what skills, and also the resources that you have, and then share with each others. Let's say Lam, okay, Lam, oh, I can tell my friends, hey, I have this pyrolysis reactors or pyrolysis systems in my lab. If you have any samples, you have any waste, biomass that you want to consider using pyrolysis to recover them, you can let me know. You can send your samples to me. I can help to do that. Oh, I'm working on LCA, life cycle analysis. If you have any chance that you want to work on life cycle analysis, I mean, please feel free to let me know. We can do this together. That's what I mean, introduce and sharing your resources and skill. Oh, I have GCMS. In my labs. So, I mean, if you have samples that you want to analyze and it takes a long time for you to analyze in your lab or in your universities, or you cannot find anybody, you can send your samples to me and we can work together on this. That's what I mean. And volunteer yourself. You as a student, volunteer yourself to a supervisor, senior, your PhD, if you are a master student, your PhD students or your postdoc, or your colleagues, if you are young lecturers, or whether you are senior lecturers, you can volunteer yourself to your professors in other teams or in university, in this or that universities, to help on working on writing papers. Believe me, they need help. Okay, everybody needs help so that it could be, it could be faster and more efficient, and also the paper can be written in a better level, something like that. Okay, so you can help your supervisors, lab mates on their research, whether it's helping them to, if you are students, you can help your PhD student to run some of the analysis, okay, some of the experiments, or they can also help you in return. And also, if you are a postdoc, if you are PhD students, you can help your supervisor by reducing their load, by helping them to supervise their final year students. That is very helpful, I'm sure. Okay, and also there will be papers drafted right up from their research work. So you can offer yourself, Prof, Doctor, do you have, I know I know Adi is writing out a paper. If you think that you need my help, I would like to learn together. Can I help in working on that paper together? Offer yourself, volunteer yourself. You'll be surprised. Your supervisors will be very keen in helping you. Okay, so by this I mean is what you can do is you can try to search for those active researchers in your universities. In your case, you are in UITM. You search for those researchers in UITM who are the active or prolific or really keen on publication. If you really want to improve your publication, right? So in this case, I'm giving example like, you can go to Scopus. This is a Scopus page. And then search the authors. Search the university, UITM or UMT, and then it will list out the number of authors based on documents and H-index. So you can see the top 10, top 15, top 20 authors who are very researchers who are active. Then volunteer yourself to help them, push them, or you can suggest to your supervisor, Doctor, can we perhaps try and work together with them, so that we can also improve our publication output. Okay, like in this case, these are the top, some of the top active researchers in UMT. Okay, and you can search by number of papers, then you will know, they really publish a lot. Okay, right. And now, yes, actually, I've just looked for some UITM researchers, so I've screenshot a little bit. So these are the top 5 active researchers in UITM. I'm sure you know them better than me. Okay, so you know that this and that lecturers are very active, so you can try to connect yourself with them. Yeah, they are very active. That means they have many students, they could have postdocs, or they have many research that they are doing and they need help. Okay, so offer yourself to help, whether you are as lecturers or you are students, or if you are lecturers, you can offer yourself to help. You can say, I can have one of my students working together with you, Prof, in some of your research, and then we share the joint publication, if that's okay. I'm sure he will say yes. Most of the lecturers, most of the professors and active researchers would say yes. This is how I have been doing. I mean, over the past few years, I've been working with many different researchers. Okay, right. Now, based on the number of papers, you see, you right here, there's one researcher who has published 1,144 papers. I don't know, maybe you know him better than him or her, I'm not sure. So you see, some of them publish a lot of papers. How they do that? Then try to learn from them. I mean, and also contribute yourself, volunteer yourself to help them. Okay, so you have like a Mushirin Ismail, something, yeah, Mamad. So these are so you'd be surprised, UITF has also a lot of all these outstanding and prolific researchers. Okay, right. Right. So this is just an example of some of the papers that I have published, or we have published from our research team. All I'm trying to show you is this. I always have students. Let's say Dr. Wan Adiba, she was my PhD students. Okay, so she actually offers himself to help with, with the research work. My research work with some of my collaborators in overseas. So as a result, we publish good papers. And we also invite researchers from different universities in different countries, those who are my collaborators. So as a result, the chances of publishing in high impact journals is higher. So this is another example that I would like to show you is Ho Yi-Lin is just a final year student. Okay. Elfina at that time is my master student, and Wan Adiba is my PhD students, and Peter is my PhD students. So they work with each others in their papers, and as a result, they can publish in also good impact journals. Okay, right. So this is another example that shows that I have a team of my members who are master students. Lim Xing Yi is just a final year student. We also involve her. I mean, she's for this research, she's helping in some of the analysis, because at that time she's doing her final year project. She needs to learn, let's say, GCMS analysis. So while she's learning how to do GCMS analysis, she has been analyzing sample. So she also helps Feng Xingying and Kesempo to analyze their sample. So when she has helped to analyze the sample, she also involves in writing some parts of the result of these papers. So as a result, together they can publish the papers. Zhong Ji Chen is from UMP. It's the students of my collaborators. At that time, we also send samples to UMP. Okay, and then she helps to analyze the samples. Okay, we also send samples to China because some of analysis we can't do it in Malaysia, so we send it to China and it's even faster. So together we publish a very high impact journals. Okay, right. So Feng Xingying is just a master student. Okay, she is still a master student now, graduating soon. Okay, but how can she manage to publish in a good journal like Chemical Engineering Journal? By having a team of researchers to support each other. So she has Liu Rocky. Rocky already graduated, but he's still helping. She learns a lot from Rocky to write papers. Okay, and we also have researchers like Yok Wang is from UMP Pahang, and then he's now in UTP Petronas. Okay, and we also have all this Li Xie, Han Chai Xian. They are all final students. So my strategy is always I try to involve my students to work with each other and also work with researchers from not only local universities and also in overseas. And together we share the publication output. Okay. And I always encourage, like I say, like just now, my strategy is about, offering yourself to help, right? So another way that you can help is by being a reviewers, review papers for all these journals. So of course, when the editors sees that you have reviewed for this journal a lot, so they get to know your name. So when you submit your paper to this journal, in a way, you will get some bonus point, I believe, because the editors will think that, the journal editors will think that, oh, you have reviewed our journals, papers for our journals a lot. So in a way, I'm sure you know the level and the depth and the quality of the papers that can be accepted by our journals. So when you actually submit your journal, your own papers to this journal, of course, you know your paper will be in a better quality. Okay, right. And also communicate, learn, and work with your peers and experts. So we don't just offer ourselves with help. We don't just offer ourselves to help. We also learn from the persons that we help them. Okay, who should we learn from? Those with the interest, with the experience, very active in publications. Okay, try to find the researchers who are active in your universities or whether in other universities, and learn from them. Offer yourself to help, and then try to ask them to guide you to learn from them. Okay, then what should we learn? Learn to, if let's say in this case is publication, you learn to write the papers, how and improve the papers together, meaning that write and publish papers together. Okay, and if you are students, I mean, how can you really publish your papers? You learn from your supervisors, and not just learn from him, by you learn by doing this together with him. Okay, and also with your team members or other active researchers like your supervisors, collaborators. I have to admit that I myself, if I am to be the only person to guide my student, that is not enough because I have my limitations. So I always have my collaborators with different fields of expertise that involve together in supervising my student. But sometimes they may not be able, my collaborators may not be able to be a co-supervisors because that responsibility is very high, but they can always be a co-author in the paper of my students, and that in a way he can use this channel, my collaborators, to guide my students, like giving some professional advice and also helping to improve the papers. Okay, this is one of the examples that we've been writing this paper. Elfina is my PhD student, so we are working on aquatic weeds. Okay, all those grasses in the lake ponds, right? I admit that I don't know a lot on these aquatic weeds, but Derek Chan, Associate Professor Derek Chan from USM knows a lot about this, and we actually get the aquatic weeds from them. Okay, Dr. Noor Asman is from UMD, also knows a lot about all these algae and weeds. So, and Dr. Haja is a waste recovery person. So I will invite my collaborators from other universities with the relevant expertise to guide my PhD student, Alfina, to work on this. Okay, so together now we have written a paper, we have submitted this paper to Journal of Hazardous Materials, it's under reviews. So this shows you that how we can really work with each others. Okay, so you see we have researchers from Vietnam, USM, UMT of course, and China, and Denmark to work together. Okay. And this is another example that my students, Fong Xingying, my master students, okay, she actually team up with Felicia and Bernard. Felicia and Bernard at that time is just a final year student, and they would like to learn because they think that in their final year students, if they can publish paper in a way that can help them a lot in improving their CV. At that time, they only think that it can improve their CV by allowing them to get scholarships to further their postgraduate studies, or maybe to allow them to be to have more opportunities or higher chances to get a job after that. Okay, but they didn't know that they can learn a lot from that. So at that time, three of them came to see me and they asked me to really help them to publish paper. They set it as one of their target. Okay, so I have teamed up with them with one of my close collaborators, Professor Christian Sohn from Denmark. Okay, he is a very excellent researcher and writer. So together they have write on a short review articles on chlorpyrifos. It's a pesticide. So we write on the recent status and progress, and we managed to publish in good impact journals. So these students did okay. Felicia already got a job. Bernard continuing his masters in UTP Petronas, Okay, and Fong Xing, of course, graduated from for his her master's studies. So these are all another examples that I team up my final year students, my master's PhD students with different researchers to work together. And it shows you that it is possible with these kind of collaborations that you can have your papers published in good impact journals. Okay, right. And this is an example that I want to set an example to my students. I always ask them to collaborate with among each other, right? So I actually show them that, okay, I never publish in Cancer Scan. This is a very well-known journals that I would really one day hope to publish my papers in these journals. So what I actually did is I approach myself. I volunteer myself to help with one of my collaborators, Professor Tong Chi Yuan. He published a lot in these journals. Okay, I work together with them and I involved in this. And after I work on the joint research, and then I involved in writing the paper together with him. So by this, from here, I have learned a lot on how to really write the paper that can really fit to the scope and the level of this journal. So together, we've managed to publish this paper in CamSusCam. Okay, so I learned the tricks, bits and pieces. Okay, and also green chemistry. This is ChemSusChem. And I also learned from them in how to really publish a paper in green chemistry. Okay, green chemistry is also a very reputable journals that I hope to really have a chance to publish. So I learned from others in publishing in a journal that I'm not familiar with, and it works. Okay, right. And at the same time, I never stop writing. Okay, so I hope that one day I can publish in Science. So I also seek out, volunteer myself to those who have published in Science on writing papers together with them. And so initially, I started as a co-author. I involved in writing certain parts of the papers, and then to really learn from them. Okay, then yes, lucky we got papers published in Science. And after I have gained some experience, I volunteer myself to write a new paper together with them. By this I mean I will be the first authors, and of course under the guidance and also the collaborations with different researchers under the guidance by Prof. Christine Song. And yes, we got published. So I want to show to my students that I never stop writing. I'm still writing nowadays. Okay, right. And when you have more experience, so things are just get easier and easier because you also know what the journal really wants. So in this case, the chances is higher. So yeah, I also write a paper on Sumatran rhinoceros. At that time, there was a time, remember that we have the last Sumatran rhinoceros, die in one of the Malaysian zoo, and that actually provides us an idea of writing a paper on that. Okay, and at the same time, I'm still continue to write papers together with my collaborators and then targeting some good journals. Okay, see, I'll be a co-author. Okay, right. And this year, 2021, we also work together and write a paper on European eel, which is is going to be extinct. So we write a paper to create an article, a science letters to create the awareness. Okay, and also we have been sending our papers to Nature as well. So I work a lot on recycling. I'm a waste person. Okay, a waste researcher. So yeah, I also volunteer myself to write under the guidance of Prof. Christine Song. And then yeah, it shows you that by writing yourself and submitting to these journals, it provides you a lot of training. Okay, I have to say that Science, Nature journal are different with other journals. When you submit your paper to them, if the editors think that this has chances and can be considered, then they will, even the editors, not only the reviewers, they will provide comments and they will also help to improve the paper. And it's back and forth a few times before they finally accept that the paper can be published in Nature. So this process of reviewing back and forth among the editors, reviewers, and the authors, I really learned a lot on, especially on how to really write a high impact sentences and paragraph. Well, this gives you a lot of training. So that's how I really improve my writing personally from here. And once I know the tricks and I've learned a lot from here, I can share all this knowledge with my students. So this shows how good it is from writing and publishing in journals. Okay. Yeah, and then this is like a dream that I never thought that I, in my career, can publish an article in Lancet. Lancet is a medical journal. The impact factor is 79 or something. So, but we somehow we got an idea to write something on this planetary health relevant to pandemic, and then we think that this is an area or this is something that the medical community in the world that should really think about this. They should be aware of this, and Lancet accept our paper. So that is also another highlights of my career. So we really learn a lot from this. Okay, and yes, we keep on writing. So this year we also write something on a tree, the ancient oak tree in Europe, and is also towards extinction. So we thought of like we need to create an awareness. So we have written an articles. Okay, so you can see that we wrote a nature correspondent. The initially we sent about 2 to 3 pages of this paper, and then finally it cut down. It was being cut down until only a few paragraphs. So imagine how much we have cut down together with the editors and the reviewers. So how do you really summarize and present the key findings into only a few paragraphs? That is a very good process of learning. Okay, right. And this is another highlight that we have published. I always dream of publishing in this journal. This is one of the best journal in my field. And writing this paper is it's like writing a book for this journal, but we managed to pull it off. This journal is also a very high impact journals, and we spent nearly 2 years to really to write up, to plan, to write up, to submit the paper and accept this. So we were so happy that we can manage to publish this paper in progress. So all this is a very good process of learnings. So, and I also found that from publishing this paper in this journal, it also improved my skills in writing a book, which I think nowadays is also important for researchers and also for lecturers. Okay, writing a paper is different than writing a book, but in this case, writing a paper and publish in Progress in Energy and Combustion Science is writing at a book. This paper is, I think, is nearly 100 pages long. So it's already like writing a book. Okay, right. So after we know about my strategies, we also set target and commit ourselves to it. So that's why I say personal commitment. So we commit to ourselves, you commit to yourself to draft one paper, whether it's a research paper or it's a review paper or it's a short review paper, in 2 to 3 months. Find a time to write for 1 to 2 hours a week, 3 to 5 days. You can start it with 1 week, you find out 3 days, and each day you use 1 to 2 hours to write. That's how I started. That's how I encourage my students to start. And practice makes perfect. Most of them, I would say all of my students, they can do it. And now they have made writing as part of their life. And that allows them to really publish good papers. Okay, so take publication as a responsibility and also passion to learn. When you write, you actually learn. Okay, because you read something, you write it down, you will have this thought process going on in your brain, and that allows you to learn. Okay, and then also think of publication not to achieve your KPI, but more towards like promoting and share your findings from your hard work. Like if you are doing experiments, you spend 1 or 2 years to write up your thesis, right? So of course you want to share these findings, share the things that you have written to the audience, to the communities, so that they know what you're doing and they know what you have found, what findings you have found. Okay, so this is an example that I have Xingying, who's my master students and also my final year students. They also came to me that they want to write up a paper. So they started to write up their papers. Okay, and then after some rounds of revisions, we publish in the Scopus Index journals. Okay, so this shows you that it actually works. So practice makes perfect. Yeah, okay, yes, and also my students working among them, and also with some team up. We team up with researchers from different universities. We write up research papers, and then yes, it's under review by a chemical engineering journal. So by this I mean that it is always possible that if you write your paper and then you team up with the right researchers, you write your paper well, you can always target a good impact journal. It's under review now. Okay, so, right. Right now, being a student, let's say if you are PhD students or if you are postgraduate students or if you are researchers, professors, always guide your, I think it's very useful that you guide. I mean, you have students who are keen on publication, okay, but they need guidance. So we, as lecturers, professor, we need to guide them, and not just to guide, not just to say something. Guide. We also need to guide, but we also need to work together with them. We also work together with them, with your supervisor, friends, and collaborators. What we need to work with them in the context of publications, draft the publication outline together with them, identify what are the journals to target, and then even the title, abstract, figures, tables, all this. Do this together with your students. Don't let them do it alone because they are inexperienced. They need guidance. Okay? So refer to the, so always, we always refer to the relevant papers in the journal that we want to target. We study them, we also follow them. When we say follow them doesn't mean that we copy and paste the text. We follow the format, the flow, the format. We read the guide for authors. We make sure that we at least we need to follow the format and the guide for authors, the requirements of that journals. Okay, like sometimes this journal they have limitation the of the number of words for abstract, so we will follow them. Okay. Right. We always read the online guide. We go, let's say we want to submit a paper to environmental pollution. We will go to the guide for authors section and we read it carefully, but in a very detailed way. And we read the description very carefully. We want to see whether our paper can fit to the scope of this and that journal. Okay. Because now that I'm also an editor in one of the journals, or in some journals, so I know that one way to access one of the first few things that we will access whether we can when you submit paper to a journal, we will look at whether this paper fit to the scope of the journal. If it doesn't fit, no matter whether your paper is really good or not, we will just reject that papers. Okay, so always check the guide for authors for the journal that you want to aim, and look at these sections especially the description of the journal, meaning you want to know the scope, the aims and scope, and also the scope classification, and see whether your paper, your findings fit to what they want. Okay, and also look at the length of the manuscript. Some journals they have requirements on the length of paper, like you cannot more than, let's say normally a review paper. Some journals they don't want it to be exceeded 10,000 words, and for a research paper, 6,000 words. So if you have written too long, you have then you send to this journal, because of not fulfilling this requirement, they will reject your papers. And some they have word limit for abstract conclusion. So read the guide for authors carefully, and the number of figures and tables they are allowed. Normally, for some journals, normally we don't accept more than 9 figures and tables, total 9 figures and tables. But some papers we have received from the submission to journal, some they have 15, 20 figures. So before we as an editor even look at the content of the paper, we will already reject the papers because you don't follow the format. And another thing is the reference. Please make sure you follow the format of the reference required by the journal. That is very important. Some editors, before they look at the content of your work, they will just go straight to the reference section and see whether you follow the format according to the journal. If you don't follow, reject. Because you have to understand that editors receive a lot of papers submitted to a journal every day. Like environmental pollution, we can receive up to 1,000 to 1,500 papers per week. Okay, so every day we will have 1 to 200 papers to process among the editors. So each editors or each associate editors may receive, let's say, 20 papers. So do you think some editors will have time to really look carefully into bits and pieces of your paper? No. So they will find reasons to reject you. So please make sure you follow all this so that they don't reject you because of these reasons. Okay, and whether highlight is needed. Okay, just now I mentioned the subject classification. When you submit your papers, sometimes you can just go to the journal and then you log into your account and then you can click on submit papers, right? And then they will have this subject classification for you to choose. So look carefully here whether your paper fit to these scopes. If it doesn't fit, most probably your paper will be rejected, meaning that your paper does not fit the scope of that journal. Okay, attend and join conference. I never, I mean, I always encourage my students. I always encourage the students and also my collaborators to always send their students and researchers to join conferences, because joining conferences actually is really useful in my experience and opinion. Okay, so I get, when you send your papers to when you join conference, when you attend conference, your abstract could be recommended to be submitted to special issue of journals. So that gives you a higher chance to be accepted, your papers. And of course, when you go to conferences, you don't just go there and then sit there and listen to the talks and everything. You need to really go and make friends and establish contacts, especially with the editors and experts. Okay, so I'm just giving two examples. I always told my friends that I attended a conference in KL at that time, and I saw this this uncle guy sitting in the cafeteria. During a coffee break or something. So I just, because I was boring at that time, so I have nothing to do. So I also went and asked whether I can sit with him, and then we just start chit chat. And surprisingly, this person, Professor Yong Kwan Park, is actually an editor of Korean Journal of Chemical Engineering. He didn't tell me, but we just talking, and then we become friends. We keep in touch and something. And after we attend the conferences. In a week's time, he sent an email to me to invite me to submit a paper to this journal, and we have become a close collaborators after that. We have a lot of joint papers, joint publications, I think a lot. Okay, and Professor Paul Williams, I met him in one of the conferences in Europe, and in this case, I know him. I personally, I don't know him, but I know who is he. He's like one of the expert, a world-class expert in my area in energy. So I approached myself, I go and talk to him. And surprisingly, after we came back from the conference, in only like 3 days, he also sent me an invitation to submit paper to one of the journals that he is involved, Journal of the Energy Institute. Okay, so you will get invitation to submit paper to a journal special issues. So that gives you a better chance to accept for publication. And not just me, Dr. Wan Adiba, who is currently my postdoc, she was my master's and PhD student. He met this guy called Eldon in one of the conferences in Thailand. Okay, this Eldon, he has been organizing writing and publication workshops free of charge in many conferences, sometimes online. So Dr. Wan Adiba got to know him. So Dr. Adiba will always got a free ticket to join Eldon's workshop on publication. So this is how he benefits. Okay, so you will also meet the guys like this who are very kind in offering workshops on publications. And I bring my students to a conference in China, and then yes, they get to know with each other of some of the students, and some they also work collaborate with each others in their research works. Okay, and of course among the researchers, the experts, then we also get to know each others. Okay, right. These are some of the pictures that I've extracted, like that I've got to know them during conferences. Let's say But then it turns out that some of them are really editors, editor-in-chief in some journals. I didn't know that at that time. I just try to make friends the best I can. Professor Ashok Pandey is the editor-in-chief of Bioresource Technology. Professor Kwan, Professor York Rinkaby is an editor of Environmental Pollution, Journal of Hazardous Material. Professor Christian Sohn is the editor-in-chief of Environmental Pollutions. Professor Chu Yongguan is a fellow, is an academician of China and also an editor of Environment International. Professor Wang Qihua is an NUS professor who is an editor of Chemical Engineering Science. Professor Jiri Clemens is the editor-in-chief of Journal of Cleaner Productions. So we hang around with each others, and then of course after this we get opportunities, we can work with each others, and also I mean get invitation to submit papers to these journals. So expand your networking so you will get this opportunity, whether you will be invited to work on joint research leading to publications. So if your supervisor get invitation, they may involve students to work on the joint research with their collaborators. Okay, sharing of research facilities and networks. So now we know that we are in COVID-19. I cannot run my experiments. I cannot do some analysis in my labs in UMT, but I can send my samples to China. In China, they are not that affected by COVID-19. The labs are open. The facilities are available, so I can send to them. I can send to Korea. So my collaborators. So my research, I'm lucky that some of my research are still going. Okay, an invitation to contribute to their papers. So my collaborators, they have students, they have drafted their papers, joint review articles or something. They will invite me to work along. They will invite my students as well. So invitation to write review paper together. So this is how you get invited. Fong Xingying, my master student, he get to know with Professor Christian Song. So he get many opportunities to work on the joint papers with Prof. Christian Song. She gets to know Professor York Rinkaby. They also have joint papers nowadays. Okay, of course, with me as well. So this is how my students have really benefited from attending conferences. Okay. So we get invitations. We have initiated, we have organized papers like review papers. Nowadays, you can write review papers because of COVID-19. You cannot go to lab, so you can write long review papers. As an example, you can write. So we have been writing long review papers. When we say long review papers, like more than 20 pages. Okay. So we've been sending papers. We can write short review papers. Okay, short review papers is like 10 to 15 papers. 10 to 15 pages. We've been writing. My students, we all work together. Okay, right, and you can write short review articles, sending to good journals. So it's good that now you have time to write review papers. You can write mini review papers. We also write mini review papers like only 5 pages. 5 pages. We can submit to and accept by environmental research. Like there was a time that there was a locust outbreak. So we wrote a mini review articles on locust outbreak, and it got accepted in environmental research. It's Q1, it's good impact factors. And yes, we also sent to this Stoughton, Science of the Total Environment. You can also write an even shorter paper. We call it opinion on a note. Okay, opinion and note is, I think, maybe three pages something. So you can also publish in Stoughton, like we wrote on something on deforestation, and then we try to link it to SDG goals. It is also possible to publish in, let's say, a good impact journals. So I'm trying to tell you that publication is not just about writing from your research, using your data from your research. You can write all sorts of different articles, long review articles, short review articles, mini review articles, and opinions and note. Okay, as long as it can be published. So these give you a very good exposure and training. And now my practice. So it's already 10:30. Okay, I'll go through very fast. So to me, I always goes for quality rather than quantity. Okay, so we want to write our papers in the best quality form if possible. So when we say quality, meaning that we will always present something new or interesting findings. We will not repeat our findings, okay? And we will not publish some data that we have published in our previous papers, and then we use the same data and then we publish in our new paper. Never happen, okay? And we always write with short and simple English. When we say short and simple English, that means short sentences. We don't write long sentences, okay? And we always have in the result and discussion that we always write sentences to discuss our results with theoretical and practical implication. So I always ask my students when they have in the result and discussion, when they have write sentences to explain the result, let's say this goes up, this goes down, right? And then I will ask them to ask themselves, so what? Why I need to know this go up? Why I need to know this go down? Why I need to know this increase, this value decrease? What's the importance of that? Write out the importance. That's what I mean, so what? Okay, write an answer to the so what. Okay. And yes, English is always could be a problem or limitation to some of us. Okay, my students have been using some softwares that they can find in the internet, Ginger and Grammarly. Uh, I even have one of my postdoc who is very kind to subscribe to Grammarly. It's not too expensive, I think, and then he shares his account with my team members. So they are all using Grammarly to screen for simple grammatical mistakes and sentences. That helps. Okay. And yes, we send to each others. We send to our friends. My students will send to another team member and also to his friends to read his papers. Okay, and then that will actually helps as well. And yes, if you really have fundings in your research grant, then you can, if you really want to go for better proofreading, you can go for this language editing software, like language editing providers, Editage or something. If you have fundings, though I normally don't do that for my team. What we have been doing is many times of self-checking. My students, my postdocs, they will always check their papers at least 3 times before they send to their supervisors. 3 times, okay? So let's say my students, he will check 3 times, and then he will send to my postdoc. My postdoc will also check for 3 times. Then to me, I will check for a few times. So that's what I mean, many times of self-checking and also revision, okay? And yes, although we publish paper in different journals, but still we focus on our own field of studies and expertise. We publish papers in our own field of study, but we be diverse with the journals that we send our papers. So we will send our papers to different journals, okay? But we stick to our field of study. So my field of study is always pyrolysis. I work on microwave, I work on waste and biomass recovery. Okay, so we publish in different journals so that we can promote our work to more different research communities. Okay, so as you can see, I work a lot on pyrolysis. I work a lot on microwave. So you see, microwave, pyrolysis, microwave. So we work a lot on this area, microwave and pyrolysis, but we send to different journals. We send to hazardous material, chemical engineering journal, renewable. We send to energy journal. We send to engineering journal. We send to material journal. In this case, let's say, what is what I mean? Okay. And work together with your supervisors and students. It's a team effort. So everybody needs to really play a role and involve. Okay. As a supervisor, you don't let your students work on their own. It is very difficult. Trust me. And as a student, try to really work together and get your supervisor work together with you. By this, I mean that don't be shy. Don't be shy of sharing your work with your supervisors. Although he or she might blame you, might scold you, but you know that in the end, he or she would like to help you to publish papers together. So it's a team effort. So by this, I mean draft paper, write paper, comment, improve the paper together, all this. Okay, right. So this is how my team has been working. Before we write a papers, we will start with drafting at least a title, and then we will draft an abstract first. Okay, just to know the overview or the overview, or we want to know the general overview of the papers, and we will come up with the table of content. So this is what we always do, so that we know that we get our framework. We decide on, we finalize on the framework. Then only we start writing the papers. Okay, this is how my group has been working on. Right. So let's say this, we plan this thing, this review papers. This is what we have planned out. Then we proceed with writing. Then yeah, we publish in Bioresource Technologies. Okay, right. And learn and lead. Yeah, you know all the tips. You know that you need to write, but you need to actually do it. Okay. So I always encourage you all. I mean, my students also. Like now you have learned, might as well you do it. So draft one paper with your students. Here, supervisors in a very detailed way. Once this draft is ready, then you think that this draft is okay, and then you use this draft as a template, and then to guide you for writing the next papers. Okay, and my writing habits. Okay, always find a good time. You know your good time, your suitable time to write. Okay. In my case, I'm my writing time is 5 o'clock in the early morning. So I try to wake up early. During weekdays in the early morning, I will write from. I work on my publication from 5 to 7, and after that, like you have to go to work, attend to your kids, and then I have positions in the university as well, so it will be very busy. Many people will interact with you or disturb you, so you don't have time to write. So in my case, my writing time is always 5 to 7. I try to stick to that. Okay, otherwise it's difficult for you to find your time. Having said that, you don't need to follow me. I have students who will work at night, have their writing time 10 to 12 at night. Okay, but we always find time to write. Okay, I prefer quiet and isolated space. By this I mean I cannot work in this kind of environment, me myself, but some of my students, they can do that. Okay, I need some quiet and isolated place. And yes, I turn off all my Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Line, everything when I'm writing. Not doing two things at one time, only writing when I'm writing. Okay, and I ask my student to do this. I hope this is useful for them. Okay, yes, like I've been writing, we're looking at computers sometimes. When you are really tired, don't continue. Stop first. Because writing, you need to use your brain. You need a fresh brain. So when you are really tired, believe me, you can take a nap and start fresh. Okay. Okay, now, I remember Dr. Jung asked me to talk a bit about the ethics, so I share a little bit of this ethics. What is the don'ts and all these things, okay? Don't copy and paste. Please don't do that, okay? Including the text, the data, figure, and tables. Why I say that? Because now that I'm an editor, if you copy and paste, if you copy this data and data from others and then put in your paper, if you copy some figure and table from other papers and put in your papers, or from your previously published paper and put in this paper, believe me, we will know. Okay. If you didn't know, we accept your paper is published, and after that we get to know that, we will retract your papers, we will withdraw your paper, and that will give a very bad implication to researchers and also students. I have seen cases where students copy and paste their work and then put in their thesis, then they graduated, PhD students, okay? And after 5 years, somebody found out that and created a case. So that student's PhD was removed. Okay, so don't do that. Don't do that. Not saying try not to do that. Don't do that. Okay, and don't publish same data, figures, and tables in different journals. Don't do that. It's not just ethics. We can find out as editors. We can find out. I tell you. And don't falsify. Don't create your own. Don't create data from nowhere. Okay, you know what I mean. Okay, and don't make inappropriate claims of authorships. Okay, if you are not involved in that work, don't be a writer, and don't put your name inside. It's very not right and unethical. And yes, don't submit your same paper to different journals at the same time. Believe me, we can trace that. I mean, as an editor, we know that. Let's say you submit this paper to this Elsevier journal, okay, and you also submit this paper to another Elsevier journal. We can trace that, and then it will show up in your account, okay. And the consequences is you will be blacklisted either from submitting paper to this journal, or you will be blacklisted from submitting papers to Elsevier's, for example. The consequences is very serious. Okay, and also another strategy is don't submit many papers from the same author in the same journal, meaning that, let's say, I will not submit more than one paper. I will not submit 2 or 3 papers in the same journal at the same time. This will not look good to the editors. They will question whether you really have enough time to really have several papers writing at the same time and then sending to the same journal. Okay, and also this includes that, let's say you have submitted this paper to this journal A, and let's say I'm collaborating with Dr. Yong. Dr. Yong also submit this paper to this journal at the same time. So it will show up in my account as well. So we also don't do that. So we make sure that we only have maybe 1 paper submitted to the same journal at one time. Okay, this is advisable to those who are who are very active in publications. Okay. Right. And yes, there are cases, especially in writing review papers, where you have to use some data and also the figures or the tables from other papers. That happens. Okay. In this case, it is not just enough that you cite that papers. Not enough by citing. You need to get copyright permission. So you need to get copyright permissions from the publishers of that previous papers in order for you to use the figure in your papers. I mean, in the case of writing review papers. So you need to get copyright permissions. Okay. If you don't know how to do that, you can ask me. You can email to me. I will teach you how to do it. It's not difficult. It's actually very simple. Okay. But you need to do that. Okay. Now, in terms of the paragraphs and the text in the manuscript, it is very important to send your papers to be checked by Turnitin or Authenticate to know the similarity index. Okay, so I will urge you all to really, and especially before you submit your paper to journal, send it for Turnitin and check. You'll be surprised. What the result come out. Let's say if you look at here, okay, you have spent so much effort in writing the paper and then finally submit your paper to a journal. But when we receive the paper, there will be software to help us when we receive, meaning that we as an editor, we receive the paper that you submit to this journal, we can look at this report. If you look at this paper, okay, the similarity is 42%, and then similarity to each paper is 865%. Normally, this will lead to straight rejection. Because you basically copy and paste half of the content of your paper. Okay, so let's say this is another cases like it's only 6%, and then the similarity to each of individual paper is only 1%. Then that is considered a good paper in terms of similarity. Okay, so I would suggest you all to reduce your similarity to not more than 20%, not more than. Daddy in a meeting. Can you go ask mommy? Thank you. Sorry, can you go ask mommy? Okay. So back to here. Right. So I would suggest that the overall similarity should not be more than 20%, less than 20%, and the individual should not be more than it should be less than 2%. Okay, in terms of your similarity. Excuse me. Okay. All right. So not more than less than 20% in overall similarity and less than 2% in individual similarity. Remember that. Okay. Right. Referencing. Okay. Referencing is try to use some reference software like EndNote. EndNote, of course, you need to pay for that. Okay. But you can also use some free software like Mendeley that will help you to really fix and set your referencing correct. Okay. And in terms of referencing, only cite the main publications the right publication. You don't just simply cite papers that are not relevant to your study or findings, okay? And also don't cite too many references. The editors, the journals doesn't they don't like that, okay? And also all this, and also keep your self citation to a minimum. There could be cases where your paper, because you have some previous papers that have some findings that you may want to cite in your current paper. It's okay, but don't cite your own papers, too many of your own papers, like, or I would say less than 3 is good. Okay, let's say you are writing this paper, you want to cite your previous paper that from you, not more than 3 normally. Okay, and yes, avoid excessive citation from the publication from the same region, the same country. Okay, and okay, also in the acknowledgement, please really write and say thanks to, I mean, those who have helped you, your supporters, your funding bodies, and also your any people who have helped you improve reading or something. Okay, right. Publication tips. Don't be a perfectionist. I mean, students and even lecturers sometimes, I mean, you have written the paper, but you keep on improving it, and then you are not confident enough to send to your supervisor, and that actually delays the process. Don't do that. After you have written a paper, you have checked for, let's say, 2 to 3 times. It's time to send to your supervisor. Don't wait too long. And even for the lecturers themselves, don't be confident with yourself. Be confident with your work. After you have checked, when it's time to submit, submit. Don't wait. Okay? Don't be a perfectionist saying that, oh, this is not perfect yet. I need to improve further or something. And yes, you have spent so much effort to write your papers. Your students have spent, you and your team have spent so much time to prepare the paper, to do the research, then write the papers, right? So if possible, aim for a good journal first. Okay, then only go lower. That's my strategy. Because because I appreciate the efforts from the team. Okay, right. So I would say choosing a journal is important. So in my case, in my team, we always will already identify the journals that we want to submit before we even write up the papers. We already know the aim, which journal we want to target, A, B, and C. Journal A, journal B, journal C. Okay, so and then once we have identified journal A, B, C that we want to target, we will go to the journal and study their guide for authors, study everything. Okay, make sure, so when we are writing the paper, we already fix, we already follow the requirement, number of words for abstracts and conclusions. And also ask yourself, do you think your paper is good enough? How good it is or something? If it is good, then you submit to Q1, Q2 journals. If it is okay, then at least submit to Q3, Q4 or Scopus Index. Okay. And yes, you can try some open access journals that you have to pay or something if you think that is a good options. Okay. And there's no harm. I mean, in my experience, is there's no harm to try some good journals with good impact factors. Just try. If it is rejected, it's fine. Then we submit to other journals. But one thing I would like to highlight is writing a cover letter is very, very important. Right, you can go Google and study how to write a good cover letters. Okay, because some of the editors, they will only look at the cover letter first before even go and look at your manuscript. So writing a cover letter is very good, important. Yes, determine your journal as soon as possible. And yes, finish the paper. Once you finish the paper, revise, and before you send to your supervisor, send to your colleagues and your friends to proofreading, get second opinions. Okay, follow the format or writing a compelling cover letter. Okay, really spend efforts to write your cover letter right. Okay, and yes, if your paper has successfully been reviewed, you get the decision to revise your paper. Work on it as soon as possible. Don't leave it for 2-3 weeks, then only you work on it. You will lose the momentum and motivation, and you say it's difficult to do it. So do it as soon as possible once you get your revision. Okay, and then don't take the comments from the reviewer personally. Some of the reviewer comments are harsh. I understand that, but you just look at the comments that you think you can revise your paper, then you revise your papers. Okay. And yes, writing your response to reviewer is I would say very important. Especially be very, very polite and detailed in your response. Okay, so I've shown one example here. This is how I have written my response to reviewer. So I will be very polite. If you have time, if you get my slides, you can read how I respond in a polite way. Okay, and editor, of course, if you are being polite to everybody, and the editor in this case, of course, is less likely to reject your papers. Okay, when you have been very polite and you do well in addressing, in responding to the comments from the reviewers. Okay, challenge in publication. Yes, uh, you need to have the confidence. You need to believe that your paper will be published sooner or later. So in this case, you need to be firm and be patient and never give up. Okay. I have papers, I mean, over the years, I have papers that have been rejected more than, let me think, 8 times. 8 times. I sent to different journals 8 times, some some after reviews, but I never give up. I still continue to improve that paper to the best I can, and most probably, I think in most cases, the paper will be published. Okay, sooner or later. Okay, and yes, unless like I said, you will be some of your paper is not good enough that you will be rejected for many times, but it's okay. Just believe that you will publish it. And yes, challenging comments from the editors and reviewers. Just do your best to answer them. Okay, and identify alternatives, meaning that you don't just send your paper to this journal and then if it is rejected, then that's it. You always have A, B, C, D, E. In my team, we always have A, B, C. Journal A, journal B, journal C. That's what I mean. The journal as alternative for us to submit the paper to. And yes, lack of expertise. I understand that when you are doing your research, you may not know how to do this part and do that part. You don't have the expertise to do this part and do that part. That is the time where that is the time you have thought about this at the beginning. So you should invite some researchers, ask your help, ask your supervisors to invite some researchers with the relevant expertise to help you. Then that solve the problems. But what is most important is always have regular and continuous support and commitments between students and supervisors. It's two-way interaction and communication. It's not one way. Okay. So, and also having teamwork, collaborations, and so that you can review, edit, and improve the papers by all the quarters. This will definitely improve the writing skills, your writing skills, the content of your paper, the depth of your paper, and it will be accepted. Yeah, finally, that's all I would like to share. Thank you. Sorry for taking so long. Thank you, Dr. Yong. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. La, for the insightful sharing. So I have to apologize to the participants for the lengthy session today, but I'm sure you all understand, and based on the very useful tips that Prof. La have shared just now, I'm sure you will be agreeing that we are good to extend the session. Now, before I end the session, we were going to have a Q&A session with Prof. Lam. So I would like to read the first question from the chat box. So the
Sure.
first question is from Dr. Muhammad Hasib Jafar from UiTM Negeri Sembilan. The question is, thank you, Prof, for the excellent explanation and suggestion. Sometimes my paper got rejected because the title is not catchy enough. Can you give me some suggestion on how to make it catchy? I mean, the title. So over to you, Prof.
Right. Thank you. Hasif, yes. If you admit yourself that your title is not catchy enough, of course, you will try to, first you try to rewrite the title, okay? But we admit that we have our own limitation. So that is the time that you have to send your title to get opinion from others. Okay, and you can send it to Dr. Yong, let's say, Dr. Yong, or send it to your friends or maybe some professors in your field and ask them to advise. Prof, I have this title, but I think it's not catchy enough. Can you perhaps advise me on how to make this title more attractive? Okay, so get the help from others. So We cannot just rely on our own. I myself, I have come out this title. I think it's already the best title that I can have. But there are cases where I send WhatsApp, I email to my friends, to my collaborators. Hey, what do you think of my title? Hey, it's very not catchy. It's very bad. They will tell me, and then they will suggest. So, and then getting opinion from others, they will help you to improve your titles to make it catchy. Okay, that's one thing. And title is always catchy if you make it short and make it short and make it clear. So that's what I can advise you for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So we move on to the next question. Also from Dr. Hasif. Some people suggest that we cite many papers from the journal that we want to publish to increase our chances to get published. Is that true?
I partly agree. Why I say that is it's good that I will rephrase your questions. We should try to cite papers from the journals that we want to submit our papers to, but not too many. Okay, not too many. I would give you an advice. I would cite not more than 5. Normally, it's 3 papers. This is what I advise to my students. I'm submitting to, let's say, Journal of Creative Production. I will make sure that at least we cite 3 papers from that journal. Why? Because the editors will also look at this to see whether you understand the journal or not, and then whether you actually, did you actually go through the papers, study the papers in our journal before you submit your paper to our journal? And whether you know that your paper is relevant to our journal. So this is one of the assessment that they will look at, not the assessment. So I would say it's good to cite, but not too many, not like 10, 15 papers. If you cite too many, it's actually not good for the journals. Okay, I can tell you it's not good for the journal because this will create a bad implication for the journal. So I would say 3 to 5 papers is good. Thank you.
Okay, so we move on to the third question from Nurul Azlin Tokiman. So the question is,
Yeah,
could
it's
you
okay. Yo, I see the
share?
question now. Let me just answer now.
Okay,
Thank you, Yo.
okay.
Yes, publication fee. Okay. My strategy is I normally, not I normally, I most not nowadays, I try not to submit to papers to journals that charge me publication fee. I would say 95% of my papers are published in journal that don't require publication fee. Okay, right. I also publish papers in journals that ask me to, that requires publication fee, but those are journals like journals from NDPI publishers, from Frontiers. But normally for that, in that case, if you want to consider those journal, right, this is what I can share with you. Try to get discount. You need to understand that you can get discount from those journals. You can say that, let's say if you're a student or you're lecturers, you can say that I really don't have fundings. I have very limited fundings to pay for the publication fee, or my grant doesn't have that allocation. Do you mind to give me some discount or waive the publication fee? Let's say Frontiers, some of them, the journals in Frontiers, they may consider do that. They can give you from 30% to 80% discount for Frontiers journals. That's what I know, because I'm also an associate editor of one of the journals of Frontiers. And NDPI, let's say some papers that from NDPI journals, the publication fee is very expensive, right? You can ask for discount in a way by saying that, what if I review papers for your journals? Can you give me some discount? MDPI, so some of the journals, they will give you discount if you want to publish in journals with publication fee. But my advice is there are many journals that we can pick, okay, and we can pick the journals that no need to pay, because our university already pay the big subscription fees to Elsevier. So pick some Elsevier journals that you don't need to pay for the publication. Okay, next.
Okay, thank you, Prof. But for the next question, you can opt not to answer the question if you don't like to. But
Oh, it's
would you like to
okay.
answer?
It's my friend, I think, who's nice. Okay, I'm 40 years old now. Okay, I got my professorship in 39, I think. Yeah, 39 years old. Yeah. I got my professorship in 39, in 8 years, like Dr. Yong said, in 8 years. So, I mean, life has been kind to me, although I went through the hard times as well. Thank you. Right, let me go to the next questions.
The next question will be the bottom two.
Autumn, yeah. Okay, what is the correct way of affiliation in journal? Oh, this is a very good question. Okay, right. So there's no correct or wrong way. If you are students, if you have written that papers, you are the biggest contributor in that paper, then definitely you should be the first authors. Okay, what I can advise you to in terms of the sequence or the order of affiliation and authorship, I think that's what you mean, right? It depends on contributions. The person with the biggest contributions should be the first authors, and supervisors normally who is the grant sponsor and who also have the biggest contribution will be the corresponding authors. Okay, and then from my experience, because I study my PhD in the UK from my supervisor, and my supervisor has advised me like if you are the project leader, you are the supervisor, and you also have a lot on the paper, we normally put our name as the last spot. We don't put at the first spot, last spot. Only if you write the paper, then you are the first authors. Okay, there are cases where our students send paper to the supervisor, but it's really in a very bad quality, and the supervisor have to basically rewrite everything. Then your supervisor may have to become the first author because he's the person who basically wrote most of the content. Okay, so it depends on the contributions. If I answer your questions, okay. My prof said that we should support our local journal. So she's targeting local journal, even yeah, I mean we should not just local journal. I mean, as I said just now, you can always try any journals that you like, but as long as with known publisher. Let's say if you want to submit paper to journals that is handled by that are handled by UITM publishers, then by all means go ahead. But don't limit yourself by just submitting to local journal. You given the opportunity, it depends on the quality of your paper as well. Try to submit to the best journal that you can have. Let's say if you have a few papers that can be drafted from your research, from your work, of course, maybe one of them you can submit to local journal. But the good ones, of course, given the opportunity, discuss with your supervisor and submit to a good journals. Okay, we also want our names, our work to publish in the good journals. Thank you. Right, and last question here in the chat box, is it? Let me see. I'm having problem with my postgraduate students' language skill. Okay, right. I mean, yes, students always have limitation, and also, in terms of the English, we ourselves also not very good in our English. We have to admit that. Okay, right. So how to manage this? Okay, so I have a few strategies. One is I know this student really write very bad, but he likes to write. That's okay. So I will team him up with some of my students who are better in writing. It's especially English. Okay, and not only to team up with students who are better in English, I will have my let's say if that student is a master student, I will team him up with a PhD student or my postdoc. Okay, and if worst comes to the worst, okay, that paper I also have not just I will not only team up. I will try to improve his paper two times. Okay, two times. And if it is still in a very bad quality and we still need to publish it, right? Then of course another possible way that you have to send it to proofreaders. Okay, just pay some proofreaders to improve it. But of course, I will have my team members and also myself to assist to help him first. That's my strategies. Okay. If the submitted paper in top journal under editor, oh, for 3 months, then what should you do? Okay. You already emailed the handling editors, right? Okay. You need to follow up. Don't wait until 3 months. Normally, after a month, I already email the editors. Okay. You can find out the email of the handling editors first, from Google, let's say. But the handling editors may not be the editor in chief. If he doesn't respond, find out the email or go to the journal website, send email to the editor in chief. The editor in chief will, of course, definitely reply you. Okay. And another way is log into your journal submission account, and in your paper column, right? There's a click that you can send email. Send email through your journal submission account. So make sure you follow up then. Okay. And the editor office keep on asking me to wait only. I will follow up for 2 or 3 times. If they still ask me to wait, then you know yourself. I will most probably withdraw my paper. We cannot wait, okay? And that means the journal may have problems or very slow in handling. Okay, I hope that answer your questions. I think that's all the questions in the chat box. If anyone of you would like to ask me, then
Yeah, Prof. Lam, I believe that that would be the last of the question. However, I think we probably can have one more, the very last one that you had left earlier. Dr. Hasif asked one more question just now. My prof said that we should support our local journals, so she is now targeting local journals, even though they have low impact factors. So perhaps the question is, what is your opinion?
Yeah, I have tried to answer that. Don't just, it's good to support local journal, but don't have all your you don't send all your papers to local journal. That is not good for you. All I'm trying to say is, if you have your papers is good, try to submit to journals with good impact factors. That will help you as well. And like I said just now, you have, let's say, 3 papers, right? One paper to send to local journal, and the 2 good one, then you send to other journals. That's my advice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Lam, for the insightful session. So I believe we have already passed 2 hours, long, of very, I mean, longer than we expected. So another advice to the participants. So please fill the feedback form that is shared in the chat box right now before you go. So that will also act as the attendance lah for today's session. Now, before we go, I would like to ask all the participants to switch on their camera for a brief, short photo session before we go. So please switch on your camera.
Oh yes, I have shared my email address in the chat box. If you all have any questions that you would like to, ask me, just feel free to email me. Thank you.
Okay, Hamiza, boleh tolong ambil gambar sekejap. Kita tunggu sekejap. Ramai yang belum switch on camera lagi. Ya. Okay, good. So Hamiza, on your count lah, Hamiza.
Okay, semua dah ready ke? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, lagi sekali. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, Hamiza? Is it
Okay,
all right, okay. So thank you very much, Prof. Lam, for the insightful sharing session just now. So I wish you best of luck. Thank you very much from us, RMC. So
Thank you
hope
very
to see
much.
you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. All the best. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Prof.
Dah bagus.